The realtor's brochure called it a charming Victorian with vintage character. The faded photographs showed sunlit rooms with hardwood floors and intricate crown molding. There was no mention of the way the shadows clung too thickly to its corners, or how the listing had been on the market for 11 years without a single offer. James should have known better. But after the divorce, with his credit in ruins and his savings drained by legal fees, the absurdly low price tag was impossible to resist. The bank had practically thrown the mortgage at him. "It's a steal," the loan officer had said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He realized his mistake the moment he pulled into the overgrown driveway. The three-story Victorian loomed at the dead end of Larkwood Lane, its once grand facade now sagging under decades of neglect. The wraparound porch listed dangerously to one side, its railings choked by thorny vines that seemed to twitch as he approached. The windows reflected the overcast sky with a dull, greasy sheen like the eyes of a dead fish. A rusted key waited under a flower pot filled with blackened soil. The moment James turned it in the lock, the door swung inward with a groan, as if the house had been holding its breath. The smell hit him first damp wood, and something underneath it, something sweetly rotten. The foyer's peeling wallpaper revealed patches of black mold and Rorschach patterns that seemed to shift when he looked away. Dust motes swirled in the stale air, catching the late afternoon light in a way that made the whole space feel underwater. "Just needs some elbow grease," James muttered to himself, running a hand along the carved banister. His fingers came away sticky with a substance that smelled faintly of copper. That first night, the scratching began. Not the normal settling sounds of an old house. This was deliberate, purposeful. Something moving inside the walls with slow, methodical precision. James lay rigid in the master bedroom, listening as it traveled from the baseboards to the ceiling directly above his bed. Then came the whispers, not words exactly, but the suggestion of them, slithering just beyond comprehension. By week's end, he'd stopped sleeping altogether. The house had begun changing when he wasn't looking. A door he'd nailed shut would be found ajar in the morning. The rust-colored stains on the parlor walls spread overnight, branching like capillaries across the plaster. One Tuesday, he watched in horror as his reflection in the hallway mirror continued moving after Edie stopped, raising a hand to press against the glass from the other side before the surface cracked in a spiderweb of fractures. Then there was the matter of the basement. James had avoided it at first. The door was unusually thick, its surface scarred with deep gouges that radiated from the center like sunbursts. A heavy padlock hung from the hasp, though the key dangled temptingly from a rusted nail beside it. On the 17th night, driven by some primal urge he couldn't name, James took the key. The lock opened with a shriek of protesting metal. The door swung inward before he could touch it, revealing a staircase that descended into perfect blackness. The air that rushed up was freezer cold and thick with the stench of spoiled meat and wet earth. His flashlight flickered as he took the first step, the wood groaning ominously beneath his weight. Halfway down, the light died completely. In the suffocating dark, something shifted. The sound was unmistakable, the wet, sticky noise of flesh dragging across stone. Then breathing, not human breathing, something with too many lungs. Each inhale a staggered, gurgling wheeze. A voice spoke from the darkness below, its words distorted as if forced through liquid. "You were warned." James turned to flee just as the door above him slammed shut with finality. The flashlight clattered to the steps as something grabbed his anklet's grip like burning ice. The last thing he saw before the darkness took him was the outline of something enormous uncoiling from the depths, its distended limbs scraping against the stone walls, its gaping maw filled with teeth that gleamed like polished bone. The realtor found the house 6 months later. All traces of James' occupancy had vanished. The walls were freshly painted, the floors polished to a mirror shine. Even the persistent stains had disappeared. Only one anomaly remained where the basement door had stood. There was now only unbroken wall, the wallpaper perfectly seamless. And in the master bedroom, the sheet-draped armchair by the window now held the faint impression of a seated figure, its fabric slightly damp to the touch. The listing went back on the market the following week. This time, the price was even lower.